What do you believe right now that's making you feel this way? And when you analyse it, you realise how irrational you can be at times.
Every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
It's not sales per se, but the outcome of it is, because people get to know you, they get to see you.
But, you know, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development programme I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated. Yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews, and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so, into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer, or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk. Today I had the pleasure to interview Mike Dunn on ScaleUp Radio. And Mike Dunn founded the XLTM Group, and his wife is a co-director of the business. And they're a telemarketing company in the construction sector. And I love that they have specialised down into a niche, and you'll hear some of the ways that brings them a competitive advantage. I'd really like you to listen to this episode. Mike's very open and honest about some of the things that didn't go so well as some of the things that went well. And he's had the situation where they did scale up to 22 people, and then they had to drop back and regroup, if you like, and then go again. And I think there's a lot of powerful messages within there, and definitely worth listening to. And I also would like you to really listen out to, I love his answer to my question around, what legacy do you want to leave? I think some really good things in there. So some great conversations, quite a lot of it around the people side of things, but listen out to some of the lessons around the cash side of him scaling his business and the lessons that he's learned. So I won't spoil anymore. Let's go straight across and listen to Mike for the rest of his story. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. Today I have the pleasure of having Mike Dunn from the XLTM Group. So Mike, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Good afternoon, Kevin. Thank you very much for having me. How are you doing?
Yeah, brilliant. It's great to have you on. And so you're founder and MD, along with your wife, I think, as co-founder. So tell us about the XLTM Group. What's it all about? It doesn't give very much away. Well, it perhaps does in the abbreviation, but we'll hear in a minute.
Yeah, no. Yeah, when I do say it, you and other people will go, that makes sense. But a lot of people don't understand it, so it's kind of the less is more in our title. But basically, XLTM Group specialise in construction, telemarketing, and lead generation. And compared to a lot of other businesses out there, it probably sounds like the least exciting and the least attractive in the world, but we basically work with anybody that has a product or service that falls into the construction sector or built environment, ranging from Dulux, AkzoNobel, who are one of our biggest clients, the likes of your Seekers, Wabbins, who do all different types, to small one-man bands who need help, either brand exposure, portfolio building, whatever it might be. We don't discriminate by the size of a company. I set this business up because I wanted to work within the industry, be a disruptor in the industry, but also show that telemarketing isn't the dirty word that everyone thinks it is. And that's basically who we are. I'll be completely honest with you. It's not just XLTM Group anymore. We've got XLPA Services. We've got XL Training Academy, which I can go into in more detail. Yeah. But we are, as a business, our aim is to be an outsourced provider of all things within construction. And, we want to keep construction connected because it's it's such a fascinating industry because there's so many modern pieces of, product and engineering that go into construction in the built environment. But as a whole, we're kind of 20 years behind on where we should be. There's still people using pen and paper and still doing things the way they did 20 years ago because, it works. But what we want to do is we're trying to show that the little bits that go into the industry, like telemarketing, one of them factors, one of them cogs in the wheel, are actually changing the way things are being done and completely challenging the status quo of what we are, what we stand for. And it's nice to see our growth and our challenges and how we've had to learn to overcome them in the 3 and a bit years we've been open,
Yeah, so we'll definitely dig into those. So in terms of what makes you different, I love the fact that you've specialised and you've focused on construction. So, what makes you different then? You talk about disrupting the sector. What is it that you're doing that's different?
I suppose it starts from the beginning. We need to go right back to the start in 2020 when I set the company up. Set up in my back bedroom, there was no money, no injection of cash. I just had enough. I'd worked for some great companies and some less organised businesses, and I had a bad bill of health in 2019 where I kind of had to take a look at my own status and say, what would I have left my wife and daughter should anything serious happen? Because it was quite bad. I was in hospital. Yeah. And I think from that I looked at myself and said, but what are you good at? You're good at sales. What industry do you know? I know construction exceptionally well. I kind of said, right, okay, I'm going to do this. I've worked in this industry. I've worked with lead generation. I've been on site. I know the full fabric. My family are a family of builders. Ironic because I couldn't put a nail in a wall to save my life. But my family are all builders. I come from that industry. So I said, I'm going to do it. So 6th of January 2020, I said I'm going for it. And I had to borrow a laptop from a good friend of mine who's also a successful entrepreneur. I had a whiteboard and a mobile phone. And the worst logo you've ever seen, but it worked. And by February, we had, our first client on board and we had our second client on board. And then by the March 26th, I think it was, obviously the entire world hit an almighty alarm button and we went into lockdown. And as a business, Excel didn't qualify for anything. No in cash injections, no furlough, no grant, nothing. So I suppose the reason we're different is because everything from the start was about what we were going to achieve with no help. So we focused on a quality aspect, and the quality come from the very start of why are we going to be different? Well, we've had no help, and that has to be the message, is how we've never took anything, we've never received anything, we built something. And I think people have looked at us and said, this company have something about them, to go through a pandemic, no money, have 9 office moves, focus in one sector, never drift off, never focus anywhere else, build a portfolio of clients, build a team of 22 with no, cash injection. There's something about them. So for us, where we're different from a lot of our competitors is our approach of being honest, transparent. We never ever guarantee results, because you can't guarantee me that things are going to stop tomorrow. I can't guarantee the building won't burn down. You can't guarantee anything. A lot of our competitors have a habit of guaranteeing, and you'd say, you should back yourself, of course. But I'd rather guarantee you quality over quantity. And that is what we've always said. And we've walked away from clients and we've said, no, we're not going to work with you because you're more focused on the numbers. I'm focusing on your ROI. This is an investment for you. You're going to give me £5. You want £10 back. So that's how I see it. And I think that level of focus from the top down to every single one of our account managers, to our team managers, our quality team, they know my mindset of this is a quality-driven approach. Do not tell people for 1 second, I guarantee you, but be honest with them and say, our expertise will deliver ROI, but it might not be as quick as you like it. You can become kind of a victim of your own success, because when you've got so many good results and your retention rate's over 95%, people want to work with you. And we've had to push clients back till August this year and say, look, we haven't got the capacity. We will, but in order for us to get to there, we need to bring the right people on and train them so the business is organically growing. Trying to recruit exactly what you want isn't always easy, because at the start of the journey, when you've got no money, you're kind of saying to people, please will you come and work for me? I know you're worth more, but I promise you we will get to this point. I know you're worth 10 times this, but I have this vision, and people have to buy into it. Yeah. So, I know it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but I hope I've got to put some substance in it before I tell you why I think we're so great or why I think we've done so well, because it really does start from the beginning.
Yeah. So can you give us some examples of the difference that you've made then to a client, some case studies sort of type examples?
Yeah, God, well, we work with clients of all sizes. We work with, global brands, like I say, like Dulux. We work with bands over in Sweden, Norway. We work with cavity wall insulation businesses. And I think for us, we've helped companies win projects like Anfield Road, the Liverpool Stadium, the flooring contracts there, for £250,000. We've helped businesses get on supply chain networks worth £24.2 million. We've helped companies with mass projects in the millions. We've helped companies of a small size grow so much that they say, please, can you stop because we can't keep up with it. We work with, some companies that are one man in a shed, the fourth business generator. He's now had more work in 4 months from us than he's had in 4 generations of work. And I think that is a focus, once again, on that quality, really understanding what the client wants. We have a really stringent product and culture training process here where a client could pay us £1 million up front. Not that they ever have, but they could, and we would just say, until we sit down, we get to know who you are, how you sound, your USPs, what you're looking for, and it's not a 10-minute operation. We have to get this right. When we call for our clients, we are calling from them. So it's not Mike on behalf; it's Joe Bloggs, Alex Smith from, like Vexos or whoever it might be, Wavin, Anchor Group. It doesn't matter, but we are calling from that company. So in order for us to get it right, we have to know, how are they going to sound? How do we make this a seamless service, so there's no confusion.
Very good. And you mentioned 22 people, so that's pretty impressive in a 3-year period, standing start, and COVID hitting you right at the beginning. Yeah,
I think if we're going to be honest, if we're going to have an honest conversation, it's been 22, then we've scaled down and we've scaled up again.
Right.
And that comes from making mistakes along the way. And, we've had to make a few errors and learn from them. It made us a stronger company. 22 last year, we had 22 again. We were going up. We had our own building, our own 2-story building, which seemed great, but we lost our identity.
Okay.
And that, for me, was the moment of saying we need to really go back to, even me, we need to go back to basics now.
When you say you lost your identity, tell me through that a little bit more.
So last year we had the big 2-story building, a lot of team. I moved out the floor with all the account managers and went upstairs. And we had a really tough time, and my mental health was probably the lowest it's ever been. And we just lost who we were. We forgot why we set up. We had lots of payroll issues. Clients weren't paying on time, costing us staff, costing us, this honesty. I think people seeing us more of another telemarketer who was interested in having parties than as opposed to a company who are there to really change the industry. And I'll be completely honest. I was in a bad place last year. I didn't know what I was doing anymore. My wife, she really dug deep for me, and she helped us both. And she was the one that made me remember, you didn't set this up to be a billionaire. You didn't set this up to have all these big offices. You set this up to support your family should anything ever happen to you, but also to show people that, and even some ex-bosses, and they might hear this, but even who weren't the best to me, who weren't the nicest, and she said, you set this business up to show people what you were capable of and why you can make a difference to this industry. And it was like a light bulb moment of, right, okay, we've got to go back to basics, strip down the team, move back into the same office, become a team again. There was so much segregation. Right. I was listening to the wrong people, giving me the wrong advice, and I just, it just got all carried away. But I would rather be completely honest about that than sit here and say how great it is, because I think one thing a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners like to do is talk about how great they are, but we need to be also honest with each other and be open and honest and say, I made a mistake. I listened to the wrong people. I was too nice to clients. I trusted the wrong person. And I think that's the biggest part of this journey of being an entrepreneur and, scaling up. And I don't think scaling up is always what I want to do, but what I want to do is I don't want to be the biggest. I want to be the most efficient at what I do.
Right.
And I back myself to be very good at my job. So I had to go back and start sitting with the team again. And go back into, right back to it. And it was the best decision I ever made. I could never have been where we are right this moment, right now, if I hadn't have had that moment of clarity and failure in my eyes.
Excellent. No, thank you for sharing that, certainly. So what's different now then because it sounds like you're back up at the 2022. So what are you doing differently now than you were then?
We changed our aspect to clients. It's a very strict policy of payment up front now. It's payment up front before we pick up a phone. We have different cash streams. We have different terms. So some companies will pay at the end of the month for the next month. Some people pay for the full 3 months up front. And we work with companies more. But I think what we're doing now is we're communicating with clients so much and so efficiently. All of our clients say to us, or the majority do, your communication is brilliant. You're always letting us know what's going on. We let clients come in and sit with our staff and, listen to them make calls, and we're listening to them make calls. I think what's changed is just we got messed around and hurt, is that we have to look at each other collectively and say, we know we're good at what we do, but we need to be a bit more stern with people.
Yeah. Okay. No, very good. And a lot's obviously, the construction industry goes through its peaks and troughs, and there's a lot happened obviously in those 3 years that you've run the business. So what do you see? What is going on now in the marketplace? What do you see as the key trends?
I think construction is always going to continue, because it doesn't matter what's going on in the world. Even when the big C word, COVID, I hate saying it, was around, it didn't stop. Construction kept moving because houses still have to be built. The UK population is now the highest it's ever been. House prices, regardless of what's happening, always go up by 2%. The rate of a house since World War II. Houses have to be produced. Refurbishments have to be done. It doesn't matter what. I think last year there was a lot of scaremongering with construction. I think a lot of people were like, construction's going to go under. Well, it didn't. It did a complete opposite. I agree that people needed to see what was going to happen. But I think now, because of there's so many different parts of construction, Part L, Part Z, Net Zero, that keeps getting pushed back now to 2030, 2040, it keeps getting pushed back. There are a lot more opportunities now for products to come aboard. And I tell you what I have noticed as well. Newer products are getting specified, because a lot of companies that were specified 2 years ago weren't Part Z and Part L registered. So what's happening now is these companies are ahead of the curve. They're going, we are. And it's great to see these small companies now having a chat. Small, but they're not, the bigger lads are getting pushed back a little bit, and these newer companies are getting a chance to really get recognised. And I think it's wonderful to see. I think cavity wall insulation at the moment is one of the biggest. I think, filtration systems, because obviously, I don't want to go into it. There was a young boy passed in London from a cancer house with mould. So I think at the moment there's a lot of focus on how are we making the air cleaner, how are we making houses safer to live in and more durable. And there's so many wonderful products out there, so many great things that we get to see and speak to, and you think, wow, this should be spoken about more. But yeah, I think insulation is a big one at the moment we need to look at, and even some of the roofing products as well. I think sustainability in roofing is a big thing as well.
Very good, excellent. And how does the business model work? You mentioned about the fact that some clients pay you up front. Is it essentially based on the amount of time that your people are committing to it? How do you make your money?
So in a nutshell, I need to be careful here because some of my competitors could be listening. No, not that I would.
We won't tell them.
Even if they did, I wouldn't be bothered. I'm not too fussed about my competitors. So basically what happens is we do a minimum of 10 days a month for 3 months. We know through our experience that 10 days in that period of time is the right time to build, establish, and convert a pipeline. Another reason for that is if you take someone on new internally, you've got to give them a 6-month probationary period as a legal requirement. 3 months gives you the right time and also the right time to see if we actually want to work together, because some clients sign into long-winded contracts and they don't like each other after 3 months. There are sometimes just issues working together. One company wants to work one way, one company doesn't work like that. We've had it ourselves where we've said, we're not going to continue working with you because you either speak to the team like crap, or you have a very bad way of working. You know, we pride ourselves on quality. We expect that to be reciprocated. And when we work a campaign, we call from the business. So it's like I say, Joe blogs from blah, 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 Kevin Brent, ScaleUp Roofing, you know, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then we need access to diary. And some clients, well, we always request payment up front before we start, especially the trial. And we always say normally the 3 months up front, because we need to make sure our resource has been covered for that time. Whereas in the past, we didn't do that. And when you're an SME with no money and you've got no financial backing, you're scrimping and you're trying to run around and get it. And do you know what? Some people we work with are terrible. We generate them a lot of money. They never paid, or they paid late, and they thought it was okay. But you know, it's just a shame, but it happened. And what we do is, like I say, before we start a campaign, we do product and culture training. Now, because we're going to sound like that business, or we are going to be that business, we need to know how that company wants to sound. How are they introduced on a call? What's their USPs? What sectors do they work in? What qualifying questions do you want to be asked? Mm-hmm. And the reason that is because our quality process here is so stringent. We have people, so we have our team manager, our team leader, who listen to each appointment that's made. Because each client will have a different outcome that they want. Some will want us to schedule them face-to-face meetings. Some will want a set of drawings. Some will want an inquiry generation, whatever it might be. So our qualifying questions have to match what they want. So when we're on a call, we're asking, you know, who is it you normally target? What is it you normally do? Blah, 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 blah. Right down to if the person's been on holiday, they go into the notes. So when our quality team listen back to the call, they are cross-referencing the qualifying questions against against what the client has actually asked for. And when the client gets the quality form to them and they say, "Hi, John, booked you a meeting today. It's with such a," that's all attached. So when they go into a meeting, everything's there. Everything's in front of them for them to look at. And that's probably the strongest part of our business. You know, earlier this year, we introduced the first ever construction telemarketing CPD, which is ironic because we book a lot of CPDs, but we've never actually done a CPD about the benefits of construction telemarketing, and no one else in our industry ever had. That's probably been the biggest thing we ever did, and I cannot take credit because it wasn't my idea. So our business development team come to me and they said, "Mike, what do you think of this?" And when they said it, I was like, wow. And I hate micromanagement, Kevin. I can't deal with it. It absorbs energy that you need more. There's no point in me hiring people to tell them you're not doing that. People need a chance to run with an idea. And once again, I've got to give that time to work. By the end of April, we've done over 51 CPDs, and 50% of these clients are saying, "We want to work with you." The other 50% were going, "This is really interesting. We didn't actually know how much you did, blah, blah, blah." So it's interesting.
So this is training for other telemarketers, a CPD?
Oh, no. This goes to our clients. So anyone that has a product or service, we go in, and it's called addressing the taboos of telemarketing. Okay. So what we do is we go in, we tell them about our history, we tell them about the different services we provide, what sectors we've worked in. So, you know, we've worked in civil engineering, we've worked in finance, we've worked in technical, we've worked in lots of health and, you know, medical. And they'll go, "Wow, you cover a lot of different industries in construction." Mm-hmm. So it's opened people's eyes into, telemarketing, lead generation, God, there's more cold calling, and it isn't. So when they see it, they actually go, "Jesus, you've completely changed the game a little bit. You've won awards. You've been up for this. You've kind of challenged that status quo," and that is what we like. We like to hear that. Right. So, you know, the CPD, I know CPDs normally accreditations and things like that, and we might look at that in the future. But it's been a really nice way to get into people and tell them not all of us are the same. We pride ourselves on this. This is why we think it would be beneficial to you. That's been a great idea.
Great. Excellent. So take us back then. You started off the journey from your back bedroom, came from the construction background. Take us through some of the key milestones along the way, some of the key inflection points in those 3.5 years.
Well, I'd say surviving COVID was probably the biggest milestone. Yeah. Getting our first office in May 2020 was a big one for us. Coming number 60 in the top 100 elite SMEs. That was a huge award for us this year. That changed a lot, as you can see there. It's proudly on the back of us. Been finalists 9 times, 10 times with different awards, won a couple of awards. Hand on heart, mean this. I think the biggest milestone we've had so far, though, was surviving the scare of last year.
Okay.
That was that moment of clarity. That's my biggest milestone, yeah. And I'll forever be. I'll always talk about it because I feel it's that level of panic is not spoke about enough.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There's lots of milestones you can go on about. You know, we can go on about our first office or second office, this, that, these awards. But the only way you get to them moments is by the milestone of survival.
Yeah.
Because you'll always remember it. You'll always remember that moment of Jesus. We need to learn from this. That's my favorite. That's probably my best milestone today. Is that one? Is the surviving failure and coming through the other side.
Yeah, excellent. And what about the people side? You know, you've recruited up to 22 people. You've been up and down a little bit, back up 22 people. In terms of your first key hires, you know, what kind of people were they? So
my first ever, this is funny, but my first ever recruit was my mother-in-law.
Right.
And a lot of people smile, but you know what? While everyone was laughing at Excel and everyone was running out of the fire, we were running into the fire and getting our office. And I've got I'd like to think a well-known name in the industry, whether it's good or bad, I'll let people tell you that. But there were people starting to come to us saying, "Are you still working and generating leads?" I was like, "Yeah, we are." So as we were getting 2 or 3 clients on board, my mother-in-law said, "I'll come and work for you. I need a job." So I took her on, and it was an experience. It was funny, but you know what? I'll never forget the fact that she stepped in and helped, and she was on that phone for me. But it was a challenge, and then she won't mind me saying it because we laugh about it now. But yeah, we had our moments. A couple of people came and went. A couple of people let the business down. We've had some brilliant recruits though, and I don't like talking about them too much. But one of my competitors, I've employed a number of their members of staff. We've got a brilliant team manager called Ellie. We've got a fantastic business development manager called George here, who is just unbelievable at what he does. Our team leader, Chelsea, she never came from this industry and she challenged herself and she's been a brilliant recruit. We've got people here, like we've got a young 16-year-old, well, he's 18 now. We started when he was 16, straight out of school, called Cam. He's phenomenal at his job. I'd say, honestly, it's like any business. You get good in recruits. I wouldn't necessarily make bad ones. I think that's not fair to say. But sometimes you feel like you have to take someone on because if you don't, you're going to lose everything. But the one recruit for me, which always stands out, and this is no disrespect, is a chap in here called Scott, who joined us. He's actually a longer serving member of the team. No experience in construction, no experience in telemarketing. He is now a business development manager. He's been all over the country. He's responsible for retaining our largest ever client. He is responsible for some of the biggest clients we've ever had. But watching someone go from making his first couple of phone calls in the kitchen so no one could hear, to now being first through that door, sometimes before me, lights go on, he's done everything on the board, he's out on the road. That for me is where you have to look at your recruitment process and say sometimes it's the desire over the ability, because some people can come through that door and go, "Oh, I've done all this, I've done this for years, I'm the best." And they hit it and they go, "Actually, do you know what? This is a completely different scale." He wasn't like that. He came in and was honest, "I've never done this before." But do you know when you meet someone and you think there was something about you that really resonates to me, and to watch him grow into the person he is now, to watch them all grow to managers. We're a relatively young company. I think we range from 18 to 35. That's the oldest person here. So it's a relatively young business, but I can't fault any person's work ethic in there. They want to learn. We want to be the most efficient, but it's because we sit together in the same room and we're like a little dysfunctional family. We just love, we get out together, we go on team building days, we go for drinks on a Friday. That's the identity of Excel, is to be a team.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you're really keeping that culture going through the, and are you primarily all based in the office, or are they remote workers as well?
No, there are no remote workers.
Yeah.
I know it works for some people. For a sales environment, it doesn't work. Sales is all about working together. It's about the camaraderie. It's about everyone having a laugh and being together. The competition has to get a bit hard at times. Me, Scott, and George spend a lot of time out of the office. Me, obviously, I'm all over the place meeting with clients and teams and whatever else. My job as a salesman, so I love being on the road. Scott and George are our business development managers, so they are normally either with me or on the road as well. So this year, we have done 8,500 miles since January.
Right.
And that's been up to Newcastle, London, East, West. We're flying to Sweden in June. We're flying to Ireland in 2 weeks. So we aren't planning on stopping anytime soon.
Yeah.
And I think that clients now want you to come and meet with them. They want you to see them face to face. I only do Teams and Zoom if there's absolute necessity. I much prefer sitting down, shaking hands with someone and getting to know them on a personal level.
All right.
We play a lot of golf with clients as well. So if any clients are listening, you want to take us out for a round, we are always open to a round of golf.
Brilliant. That sounds like an invitation. Yeah, brilliant. And in terms of your recruitment, then, how do you manage your recruitment to make sure that what have you learned over the years to make sure you do get the right people?
So the start, it was hard because, like I said at the beginning, you're recruiting people. Not everyone you recruit at the start is always going to match the standards that you require.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to accept that because there's a cost to what people are worth. Some people are worth to join. The first 2 years were a weird process of recruitment. I'm not going to sit here and try and lie. But then this year in 2023, we said, right, we're going to change it. My wife came in officially in January, and she implemented a lot of new ways of working, which I didn't. When you're the only person in the building, you're spinning a lot of plates, and I was spinning a lot of plates for 3 years on my own, because my wife had a steady job with an income. So she always said, well, if it didn't go right, we've got this one. Anyway. So now we've used about 2 or 3 different recruitment agencies. We have a 2-stage process. We want to know how people act to target, work under pressure. There's a lot now we ask. Whereas before we didn't necessarily do that before. Before we were just kind of get them in, the nice person, get them in. Oh yeah, I know them. I've heard them before. Now we don't work with family. We don't work with friends because it just doesn't work. We want to be the business that brings people we don't know in and grow with us.
Yeah. So your mother-in-law's not still working then?
No, she went a while ago. But I think the thing about my mother-in-law is she's quite a strong person. What she's done, she's raised 3 children on her own. She's done a remarkable job of that. Trying to take orders from your 32-year-old son-in-law isn't going to be easy.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those situations where you go, oh, this is not right. But
okay.
I see her all the time. I speak to her all the time, and she always asks about the business. And she was a saviour. I'm not going to say her about her. She really did help me out no end, and I'll be forever grateful.
All right, great. So you got 2-stage process. So what are those 2 stages? What are they broadly looking for at each stage?
First stage is kind of my wife Sean and our team manager Ellie sit with them, ask them how they are, ask them what they're doing, why they're looking to leave, and then they sit with the guys in the office, and then I come kind of wading in with my sales cap on with one of our business development team, and we ask them a lot of questions about sales, how you work to target, what's a challenging time, yada, yada, yada. The list is quite long. And then before we ever make a decision, we kind of sit down and say, where do people fit in? Because we've got 3 different teams in the office now for 3 different groups of people.
Okay.
And we've just taken on another girl who I used to work with yesterday. And then we've got 2 more starting this month. And then we're pausing any more recruitment until maybe later this year because the team has to kind of plateau now. We've got seniors working with people quite closely, senior account managers. And whereas before we didn't have that recruitment drive, that recruitment process, it was kind of knee-jerk reaction. Jesus, we're going to be busy. We need to get someone in, and quite often more than not, we didn't. So we've learned from that now. We review everything and say, right, what are we going to be on next month? We've got this, and this working. We don't need to recruit. And then once we know that, it's kind of like a 3-month process.
Yeah. Good. And so you've mentioned you've got 3 teams. So you've structured the business around 3 teams. So there's presumably 5 or 6 people in each of those teams?
So there's 4 or 5 people in each team. They've got a senior account manager on there. Now, our senior account managers are probably best in the industry, I'd say, and people might not agree with that. They're clued up, they're knowledgeable, they have experience, and they are their go-to guys. So the guys in the pods will sit with them and say, look, I need help with this. And I think it gives people more of an opportunity to show what they're worth at managing the team, and showing us how they would lead their team. And that's what we really look for. We don't want to sit there and micromanage and see what people do. I haven't got the energy, no one else has. I want at the end of the week to know how we're helping, how can we implement more to assist the staff, assist that team grow. At the end of every year, we have a massive award ceremony. It's not a massive, but for us it is.
Yeah.
So we have it obviously for our Christmas party. Obviously, because all of our team don't get to go to all of our award ceremonies, apart from this month, we're all going to the Startup Awards in May. We're up for building construction services. I think there's thank you. I think there's 18 to 20 of us going this year. But because they normally don't get a chance to go with us, what we do at the end of the year is we have awards, and we'll have Employee of the Year, Account Manager of the Year, Moment of the Year, Rising Star of the Year, all these different awards. And then this year we've implemented Team of the Year, and that will be the best pod who's performed, basically. And I think what that does is it keeps that momentum in the company, or that culture of we reward people for doing their job more than just commission. We want to give a little bit where we can. That's important. So the pods this year are up against each other, but it's interesting to see the tenacity in each team.
Yeah.
Even in a couple of days of doing it, they've been brilliant.
And did you come across that sort of idea of the 4 or 5 in a team structure in that way by accident, or was that deliberate? And
Well, an error. We sat down together and we'd done that many incentives of teams against each other. It was our team managers. You just said, I think we split them up into 3.
Yeah.
We built 3 different pods for them, and we've always said that any more than a team of 4 is too many people, and that works. I'd say there's 4 people in each pod and different levels of experience. A senior, account managers, 2 account managers, and a newbie, and that helps it grow. Obviously, if we grow again, we'll implement more pods, but for the time being, that pod of 4 works. And that's from what I've learned in companies I worked at in the past, is that when we were in teams of 4, you got the best. It was small, it was confined, and you could work with each other. If it's rows and rows of you, you don't know what the person you're is saying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and yet you've got enough resilience in that team of 4 or maybe 5 that if one's not able to come to work or is a bit off colour or whatever else, you've still got others, and that whole team doesn't go down.
Correct. Yeah, that's important to us. Yeah.
Yeah, good. No, I think that's an interesting thing, and there's lots of evidence of that, those sort of unit sizes. If you go back to the military, all of those good things, and teams of that sort of size can work really well. As you say, they're big enough to get some really good stuff done, and the good collaborative thinking and brain power, all of those things, but equally not so large that the communication starts to break down. Correct.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. Good. So, my understanding is that within the telemarketing industry, retention of employees is quite a challenge. Quite high churn rates of employees. So you've already talked about some of the things that you do to keep people. What's your retention look like?
Well, I mean, this year has been better. Last year was really hard. Look, I don't lie about things on these. Last year due to clients letting us down, we unfortunately missed our payroll with a few members of staff, and it quite rightly scared them.
Right.
And I know people might hear that and go, well, that's your job and your responsibility. It was, but we just weren't retaining the clients as well as we should have done.
Yeah.
So naturally clients leave, and because we were busy fools, we were jumping in and out of different accounts. It just fell apart. This year, however, we took a completely different approach, and we've reinvested back into the team. And this year, I can safely say from March now, we haven't. The only people that have left is through us saying this probably isn't right. Our sales environment isn't right for you, because we've upped our standard so high. We expect that standard to be high. But like any sales role, if anyone sees you've been in a sales job for more than 2 years, they are always going to think, well, you're doing something right. Yeah, it's a good question, that really, to be honest with you. The turnover of staff is high. I've always said to my team, listen, as much as I love you all, if you ever got offered a job that's going to better you or your families, we're an SME, we might not be able to match that wage. We can only live into your means. If they got something that was going to change their lives, I would expect them to do what's right for them, not for me, not for the other. It's about you at the end of the day. I've worked with bosses in the past that were so nasty when they handed their notice in, and so, well, you're dead to me now. Whereas we don't want to be like that. We want to be there. Okay, we'll support you through it to the end.
Yeah,
you just keep working for us, really. Sales is a very, very tenacious world, and for us in particular, we're not hounders on the phone. We don't pick up the phone and keep hounding people. We work in a structured way. It's not for everyone, but if it is, well, then Excel probably is the right place for you to work.
Good. Okay. And what about from the strategic management of the business? How do you go about making your strategic decisions, making sure you're prioritizing the right areas, and then communicating that with the team? So how does that strategic decision making look?
You've heard of the phrase "happy wife, happy life"? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Happy wife, happy mother-in-law, isn't it?
Yeah. That's happy mother-in-law, happy wife. Yeah. And to be honest with you, we always sit together. So obviously, I'll look at the business and go, right, what needs doing? Do we need recruitment? No. Do we need computers? No. Right. That's the key bit. We need people, computers, and phones. If we've got all that in place, then we kind of look at the room and say, right, what's the most important thing? For me, it's continuous training and development for the guys. So we always have meetings as a team and management team, and we look at a complete company overview. So we always have monthly overviews where we look at what are we working at, how many days have we got in, have we got the capacity, are we under capacity, what can we do to improve it? And I think it's a case of just me sitting down to Shah, my wife, and saying, right, we've got a list of things we want to do and a list of things we need to do. And it's kind of the needs. The needs are we've got to divide the team into 3 because we know competition works better. Here's the results versus against none. So that's a priority, right? Get that right. There's no more room in the office, right? We need to make sure we've got enough office space. That's the next thing we need to do. But then it's the wants is like, right, well, we really need to get the guys out to do some team building because we always do what we're going to do for that. So that's a want. And then, and then the needs are like the urgent requirements, but the wants are like, for me, what make the needs possible. So it's, it's kind of a catch-22, but it's always a priority order of this needs doing now, that. And then we all, once again, our management team work in teams of 4 as well, so it's the same thing.
Right. Great. Good. And
makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to come back to something that you mentioned, because I think it would be interesting for quite a lot of people. You're managing to get clients to pay up front in a world where I could imagine them saying, well, I'll pay you when I know how many leads I'm going to get or how much business I'm going to get. So and a lot of business owners listening will be struggling with what you described before, which is you do a bit of work, you raise an invoice, and then you have to chase the money, and then it's just a complete nightmare. So how do you manage to address any pushback to paying up front?
I think that's our way of working. There's a reason we've grown so much. There's a reason people want to work with Excel. Yeah. We don't bullshit, pardon my language, we don't bullshit people. We're straight. We are to the point. We never guarantee. I think our level of honesty makes people give them peace of mind. The fact that we work in one industry helps people go, well, they're not going to be going from speaking to an architect to Debbie at home. It's one industry. It comes from having authority, the face just to say, okay, well, maybe go and work with them people, but you only need to look at our portfolio to know that we back ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think it's just trusting the process and always having that ability to say, I don't want to work with you because I know you're a very bad payer. I don't care how big you are. I don't care if you're bloody the world's biggest. If you're a bad payer, that means you're going to affect everything in the business. It's just knowing your audience and saying, that's how we work. And I can name off 5 or 6 different people in our industry that maybe won't do that, but they will never have the retention or the client base that we do because they probably don't back themselves. Their retention of clients isn't as high. I don't know. So I don't know. For me, it was a case of saying, if you pay up front, this is what we estimate to get, but we want to make sure resources covered. Yeah,
perfect. No, that works for me. Great. I get the feeling that you love the industry, you love what you're doing. So what is it that you love about it?
I love the change. I love challenging it. I love how old the industry is, and I love the fact that we come along and say, we're gonna make it. We love being told that work. Like podcasts, entrepreneur for construction wouldn't work. People in construction won't listen to a podcast about ScaleUp Right, okay, well, that makes me want to do it even more. I love the fact that there's so many new opportunities in construction opening up. I love the fact that we get to see a lot of these opportunities first because one of our services is product launches. So there's just there's loads and loads of different things I love, but I love mostly what I love is being the new kids on the block and challenging people and just we're up in the game all the time. That's my favourite bit about it.
Brilliant. And what frustrates you the most? What if you had a magic wand? What would you change?
Is this in anything other than the industry?
Anything you like.
I wish I don't want to get too political, but I know a couple of my friends recently went to 10 Downing Street, so I know they're going to probably. I wish that the government would support SMEs more, and I wish it. For me, I don't own my house, but I've got a decent credit rating, and we haven't received any support. And I get it. I get there was a big scale for COVID, but I wish there was more done to help businesses in telecommunications. Because if I had a product that was 100% biodegradable and was made for cats to play with, I'd get investment everywhere. It would be all over the news, but I'm not. So they look at what the industry is and not what they've done. And I think that's my biggest peeve is that we might not sound like the most luxurious, but we've created opportunities. We have given back to the community. You know, we work with the miscarriage awareness unit. We have a mental health champion. We do so much. You know, we have our sponsor. We're doing sponsored charity days this year. We're having a fun fair at a big field. We do loads. But the second you say telecommunication, you feel the eyebrows raise. And we've spoken to all sorts of investment companies that I could honestly, the list as long as my arm. Every time, what do you do? And I was told that when it came to the furlough, I think, oh, well, it's in my case, it's sink or swim. There's nothing we can do to help. Right. And that's me. That is my only rant I'll say. If I could change anything, it'd be more support to SMEs like myself who are doing their own, who are running on their own, but need help and support constantly. So if you're listening, Mr. Sunak, any help would be massively appreciated. Pretty well.
Brilliant. Good. Well, then maybe you'd like to go for a round of golf by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I'm probably going to afford this time right now, to be honest with you.
All right, good. So what's if you were to look back over the last 3 years, you know, what do you think you've got right?
I think that's a really good question. I think the one thing we got right was standing by our values.
Right.
Our values are us. And I think the one thing we got right was implementing a culture that was driven by quality, not by quantity.
Yeah. Brilliant. Good. And, you know, with a bit of hindsight, with the luxury of hindsight, what would you change? What do you think you got wrong or you would do better next time?
I think it's a tricky one because I've said that everything that happened for a reason and made me a better boss, better MD. But I'd probably take a step back. I'd take a step back and go, no. We can make this work in the space we have. We are going to charge up front because we back ourselves. We are going to not be as lenient with clients who don't want to pay on time. I'd probably say ignore the noise as well, because when we set up, we had a lot of competitors tweeting about us, posting about us, and people in the industry that were very complimentary to us because they didn't like the fact that this young Mike Dunn had set up a company. You know, how dare he do it? And I was met with so much controversy, and I've still got the tweets and the posts printed out in my office for the guys to see, because I wanted to walk in and go, that is what people thought of this business when it was set up, and look at where we are now. Look at what we've achieved. That's probably my biggest thing. Ignore it, but then accept that you are going to make mistakes along the way.
Okay. Good.
And don't beat yourself up when you do.
Yeah, good. Okay. And what's the legacy that you want to leave?
Okay, so this is a personal one for me. So my daughter's recently been tested for ADHD. I've got I'm very dyslexic.
Right.
I can't do basic maths. My legacy is to don't let what you have dealt with make it challenge you in any way. Don't let it let you be identified for that. If you're dyslexic or you struggle, there is so many opportunities out there. Do what you love, but make it your own. Create a legacy of your label is not you. Like, yeah, I get all my emails proofread now, all my text messages, my wife, I don't care. I used to be so scared, whereas I'm like, well, that's me. And I don't think I did too bad. Be open, be proud, be honest, do what you love, and whatever that might be borrowed to some, make it your own and create your own spin and invest into your time. Oh, there's so much you could say
Love
to
it.
that.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about what I do, passionate about this business, I'm passionate about the industry, but it's my job to make sure when I eventually go, my little girl can look at me one day and go, he struggled, and he had ADHD and his brother had autism, but it didn't stop him. That's for me is key.
All right, great. So where do you want to be in 5 years' time if we're having this interview and another chat in 5 years?
I'd like to be doing this in the Excel office in Europe or Australia or America. I believe there's opportunity to grow and convert over there. I think whilst there might be businesses like us, I don't think there's anyone that has got the drive that we have to keep pushing boundaries and really challenge what people think. And like I've said a few times, the plan is not to be the biggest, it's to be the most efficient.
Mm-hmm.
It's efficiency over being the biggest that I want. I'd like to have maybe won a couple of awards. So, like to actually win the the Great British Entrepreneur Awards, because that is the Oscars that is the absolute pinnacle for me to win that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I've got to get there first. I've got to do my application each year. But I've been there twice, and honestly, the people I've met going to them shows are just incredible. Like you sit down with people that blow your mind. I've made friends with so many wonderful people, but it's not just there. The Hustle Awards as well.
Yeah.
When I got to the Hustle, I remember walking in thinking I should not be here. That's great, but I've managed to get to know the guys from there so well, and just an incredible journey of 3 years from being in a back bedroom with no money to having like this business that now is recognised and well thought of, and training people and watching people develop and grow. So 5 years time, it would be to take that even further and expand beyond any initial, but remain focused on efficiency.
Brilliant. Okay, great. So what are your key goals for this year, for the next 12 months?
I'd like next 12 months. I don't know. I think some sort of investment or cash injection wise to really help us take it to the next level. We're basically working on an app at the moment, and a web-based app which gives our clients full transparency of everything we do. There's no need for reports. They can log in and they can see it. But an app or a web-based app that costs quite a bit of money to do. I would like to open the Excel Train Academy as well. I'm currently writing out modulars. It's designed to help people with mindset, people that might be struggling. It's also modulars on sales and objection handling. And I'd like the XLPA services side to grow as well. So basically XLPA receives calls and XLTM makes calls, but only in construction. So there's lots and lots for the next 12 months that I'm aiming to get done. But it's that priority list. What's the priority list at the moment? It's XLTM and getting this right with the clients and our staff and the XLPA side. But yeah, the app for me is a game changer. It opens up so much more than about who we are, but it's the money and investment that it costs an SME of our size. We simply haven't got at the moment, and I'm really honest about that.
All right. Brilliant. Well, it's been absolutely fascinating talking with you, Mike. Are you up for a couple of quick fire questions just to round us off?
Yeah, go on.
Brilliant. So if you could go back to your younger you, what advice would you give yourself? You've already given a little bit of that.
How young are we talking?
Well, where do you want to go?
Let's go back to the younger me. I would say you could say things like listen more and pay attention more, but I could say I'm very hyperactive at the best of times. I would say use your passion and drive of talking to people to your advantage. Yeah. Ask more questions, ask for help more. Don't let what you struggle with be the deciding factor in what you do next, because no one leaves school wanting to be a telemarketer. No one.
Really?
No one leaves school. Well, they might do it. Maybe I can change that, but no one leaves school as far as I know saying I want to become a telemarketer. So don't be scared of failure. It's going to happen.
All right. Good. Lots of good stuff there. Any books or podcasts or other resources that you would recommend to others?
So, yes. So, I know a chap called Paul Cheetham-Carks who owns a business called Sedulo. His book called Taking Care of Business might be one of the best books ever read in all my life.
Okay.
His podcast called Taking Care of Business is brilliant. One of my favorite books ever is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That's my Bible. That comes everywhere with me. There's another book called Deep Work, which is amazing. Obviously, everyone's going to say Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. I mean, if Stephen's listening to this and he ever wants to get me on, I'm all ears. I'm not quite any of these celebrities yet, but the Secret. Said it before. The Secret Leader podcast is brilliant, and I've got a friend called Stuart Waddington who has a podcast. The Startup podcasts are brilliant as well. I've been on there. You know, I was on there a few years ago. Okay. I think when it comes to podcast and reading, it's just what excites you. What are you what are you going to invest your time in? That's why I always say it, because I always say to my side team, LinkedIn will make you money and Facebook will cost you money. So you've got to invest your time into something that's going to give you a little bit of ROI for you. Yeah.
Brilliant. And on that side of things, you know, what apps or bits of software have you found most useful that you'd recommend to other business owners?
So I think there's one called Mind Coach, which is a really good app, really helped me. Instagram wise, there's so many inspirational pages on Instagram that you can follow. You know, I find Instagram a beacon of useful information. Okay. And just like I say, it depends what you're looking to achieve. For me, I'm always looking, how can I better myself now? How do I become not just a telemarketer, a salesman? How do I become kind of that next level up? And people go, God, he's not just someone who's good on the phone. He really invests his time into learn about people.
Okay. Good. And I ask this a little bit tongue in cheek, but I do ask it to every guest. You know, what's your most successful lead generation tactic?
So, for me personally, I just have a conversation. I just speak openly. I never sound scripted, but I always ask why is someone not done it. So if they say no, we're not interested, I just mind me asking why that is.
How do you find your prospects?
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn. I've worked in this industry for a long time. We always go to shows. We go to Future Build. We go to construct. We were at UK Construction Week yesterday, and we have our own stand. We have a nice big stand that we had designed by a really talented guy called Simon. And people tend to come to us. They tend to go to our website and they come to us quite a bit. Or we're quite active on LinkedIn, as I think you've seen, Kevin. So we get a lot of traction through there as well.
Brilliant. Excellent. Mike, thank you very much indeed for being my guest on ScaleUp Radio today. If people would like to get hold of you or find out more about XLTM Group, what's the best way for them to do that?
Even if people just want to swing by for a cup of coffee and come and see us, I'm always open to people in the office. It's nice to show people where we are. You can call me 07946 767 634. You can drop me an email, mike@xltmgroup.com. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Instagram's quite a big one for me. It's just Mike Dunn. So yeah, lots of ways.
Great. Mike, thank you very much indeed.
You are welcome, Kevin. Thank you very much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.